We're in March now, which means we're celebrating Women's History Month. Even though the film industry and many films tend to be male-dominated, there have still been plenty of great films starring women and created by women. In this episode of Movie Night, I'll recommend some great movies that center around women. For a film made in the 80s, Spike Lee's directorial debut is surprisingly ahead of its time. On Netflix, you can find She's Gotta Have It, which follows Nola Darling, a woman who doesn't want to be tied down in one relationship, and is therefore dating 3 men. With the Spike Lee movie, you know what to expect. A powerful film with very strong imagery. For a directorial debut, Lee knows how to make his visuals pop. He utilizes the black and white imagery well and keeps the film energetic with his fast editing and camera work. This film also offers a very progressive view on a black woman's individuality. Nola Darling always sticks to her views on staying independent and not being tied down. The film never looks down on her for her views on dating, but rather empowers her. Films like this weren't very common in the 80s, and it's what makes it all the more interesting to watch nowadays. Fleabag stars Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who also wrote and produced the show. Based off of Bridges' one-woman show, this Amazon series follows a woman who lives in London who is coping with a tragic event in her life. Along with that, she has to deal with her family who she has an estranged relationship with. While Fleabag deals with issues of depression and grief, which are universal, a lot of the way it is portrayed is uniquely feminine. A lot of the way the protagonist explores her grief centers around her femininity, and she questions whether or not she is a good feminist. And despite its heavy themes, this show is also incredibly funny. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's writing is very witty, and her use of fourth wall breaks is a great way to connect to the audience and crack some great jokes. Chloe Zhao recently made history as the second woman to win Best Director at the Golden Globes for her film Nomad Land. Streaming on Hulu, Nomad Land follows Fern, a woman who lost her home during the Great Recession. She now lives in a van and travels in the Midwest, living her life as an American nomad. This is a film that captures the aimlessness that many Americans film today. It follows characters that have had their life ripped up from underneath them. It's a film that captures both the beauty of this way of life, but also the hardships. Zhao wants this depiction of American nomads to be as accurate as possible, even going as far as to get real nomads to act in the film and tell their stories. It's a beautiful and moving film that captures the troubles of many Americans in the past decade. Lady Snowblood is a Japanese revenge thriller streaming on HBO Max. Taking place in the Meiji period in Japan, when Japan moved from being an isolated feudal state to a modernized empire, this film follows Yuki, an assassin who carries on her mother's vow of vengeance to kill the men who brutalized her before Yuki was born. Lady Snowblood is a film that borrows heavily from American spaghetti westerns, and in turn has inspired other American films like Kill Bill. A lot of the cinematography uses exaggerated zooms and the music sounds distinctly western, but it also explores the political atmosphere of the Meiji period. This movie also has plenty of gore, with normal wounds gushing gallons of blood, so if you like gory action flicks, this is your kind of movie. So there you have it, some great shows and movies that center around women. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Movie Night. Make sure you tune in next time to find your next binge watch.